Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:06, O'Connor and Company on this Monday morning, 7th day of July, and a busy one at that. We're going to get you updated on everything since last we spoke, the morning of July 3rd. Hakeem Jeffries was still talking the last time we spoke. Thank you to Andrew Langer, filling in on Independence Day on a busy 4th of July as well. Coming up later this morning in 30 minutes, Grover Norquist, Americans for Tax Reform on the Big Beautiful Bill. 8:05 brings us Benem Ben Taleblu with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, talk about these peace talks with Prime Minister Netanyahu. And also, in that same vein, at 8:35, Ruby Khen, a father of an American hostage from the October 7th massacre. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Bethany Mandel. Good morning, Bethany. Thanks for being here this morning.
This is so fun. I can't believe we've already been on air for 2 hours.
Oh, it flies. It flies even faster when we've got a guest like Joe diGenova, our weekly visit with the former U.S. Attorney to the District of Columbia. Lots to get into with you, Joe. Good morning. Happy Independence Day post.
Happy Independence Day post to you and to Bethany. It's great to be back in the United States.
Oh, good. You're back from your travels all through Eastern Europe. It's good to have you back safe and sound. And, of course, you know Bethany. She was one of the plaintiffs in the the Civil Rights First Amendment suit against Montgomery County School Board that settled right before that great Supreme Court decision protecting parents' rights that Bethany helped fight with as well.
Well, congratulations to her. Noble fight. Well worth the effort. And, of course, the Supreme Court has now started to lay down things that are very important about the way we conduct our lives in this country.
Yeah, in fact, I wanted to ask you, because one of the developments last week, because everyone said, oh, the Supreme Court decisions come in June 30th, things are over. No, the Supreme Court made a couple of different announcements last week. One of them had to do with remanding a bunch of cases that were sitting there having to do with transgender policies. This comes off the Tennessee decision to allow the state of Tennessee to restrict transgender procedures based on age. Can you shed some light on some of these other cases that were pending that have now been sent back down?
Well, what they are is these are various iterations of the issues of age, of availability, all sorts of different issues involving transgenderism. The court wanted to tee it up by taking something simple and important and serious like medical treatments that are irreversible. They took the one that scares people the most, and that is taking a boy and making him a girl or vice versa through physical surgery, which is irreversible, plus the medical treatments that go along with it, the chemicals and the prescriptions, which harm people for the rest of their lives. The real issue, and I think the court is wrestling with how deep to get into this, and just think if you're on the Supreme Court and you're looking at this, just like you're looking at men in women's sports, how can people be so irrational as to accept this? That's what the court is dealing with. They are not on a fair playing field. I give the court credit for being careful about what it's doing, because there is a part of our population that is completely goofy. They're gone. Yeah. They are illogic and they're nuts. And they are creating false science in order to make themselves feel better. And that's what the court's dealing with. And they're being very careful about how they do this. And I give them credit for that. But there's only so far they can hold back. And they started the other day. And they're going to get into all of these cases about age and consent and how old you have to be and what's available and what are drugs and what aren't drugs. It's a mess, all because of people. By the way, people in the medical profession are responsible for this. Yes. The AMA, the American Society for Pediatrics, those people have all caved to this incredible, illogical, dangerous, fake science. And this fight is going to be long and hard, and it's going to be very, very ugly.
I look forward to, another situation where we see Kenzie Brown Jackson have to define what is a woman. That was when Marsha Blackburn did that in 2022. That was a real eye-opening moment for me personally. But these people are wonky and crazy. but they are really in the minority. And I think that the Supreme Court, when they're taking on these decisions, I mean, obviously, it doesn't matter how the way that the winds of public opinion are blowing, but I think that they should keep in mind that this is not settled science. This is not popular belief. How much do you think that they think about, the way that popular sentiment is blowing on a given day?
Tiny bit. They really are committed to making sure their docket reflects the issues that matter to the American people and that are ready for resolution. That's why the transgender surgery case was taken. It was ready for resolution. Something needed to be said about this because things were starting to happen in the country that would be irreversible. And so they stepped in. They lowered the hammer. It was very, very tough. And by the way, I commend to people the Chief Justice's opinion in the case. It's very serious. He discusses these issues very carefully and sensitively, but he makes it very clear that science is science. You can't make it up. It is what it is. There are chromosomes, 2 different types. You can mix them and match them, but the bottom line is there are men and there are women. And these issues of consent, all of these other things about how old you have to be and everything, those are all sub-issues of the question is, to me, the preeminent issue is men in women's sports. It is the flagship issue. You either believe that men shouldn't be in women's sports, and all this crap about Leah Thomas and her, frightfully idiotic voice and stature and stance and all this crap. Leah has a penis. She's a guy. She has the bone structure. She has the muscle mass. What is this? This is nonsense.
Yeah.
I would love it if in the Supreme Court arguments the attorney actually made that argument. Justice.
I mean, in this house, we believe in science.
He's got a penis. Come
on.
Joe diGenova is our guest. And Joe, we found out late yesterday, according to a leak given to Axios of all publications, that the DOJ and the FBI have closed the case of Jeffrey Epstein, that there was no client list, that he did in fact commit suicide, and no one else will be charged in any way with any criminal activity associated with Jeffrey Epstein. And I got to ask you, are you buying this?
Absolutely. I've said from the beginning, I could care less about the Jeffrey Epstein case other than the victims who got an opportunity to be heard in New York through one of the few good cases out of the Southern District of New York, one of the few that meant something. And other than their overreach in every other case to try and protect the Biden family, I've never thought the Epstein case was worth the time and energy. Obviously, it was very titillating information who his friends were, who traveled to his various estates and islands. But I have no reason not to believe Cash Patel and Dan Bongino, and they have nothing to gain by conducting a cover-up for the FBI, or they'd be perfectly happy, especially after they disembodied a guy the other day who was part of the FBI conspiracy against President Trump, a guy who was about ready to reach retirement age, and he was told, take a demotion or leave.
Well, this is a guy, by the way, who is still admits he's best friends with Peter Strzok, and he didn't want to submit to a polygraph about the extent of that relationship. Yes. But Joe,
he may have to still go before a grand jury, however.
Make one missing element of this make sense, though. Ghislaine Maxwell is serving a 20-year sentence for child sex trafficking and prostituting these little girls, and yet in no way do we have any idea of who she was prostituting these girls to. Not one of the customers will be named or indicted. I
tell you, for the life of me, I don't understand that. But the issue becomes, well, what do we need to know to understand what happened? And my view is, we know what we need to know. I'm perfectly comfortable with the state of the public record. I'm not, as long as the victims have been taken care of, and we know of no victim at this point who has not been come forward and either been compensated by the Epstein fund. His estate was huge. And by the way, a lot of those young women got very necessary large sums of money quietly. Their names were never made public. They got compensation. That, to me, is what mattered. They were made whole.
All right, we got to leave it there. Joe diGenova, always enjoy our conversations. Welcome home.
Nice to be back. God bless America.
Amen.